Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to print a certificate from Articulate Storyline using ChatGPT to generate all of the code for you. So let's go ahead and dive in here. And if you want to check out the same project file I'm going to be working with, head on over to the link down in the description. That will give you a link to my JavaScript snippets website, which is absolutely free. And I will have the code snippets here too. Down towards the bottom, I'll have that just on printing certificate if you just want to copy the snippets as well. But I also want to show you how to generate your own certificate from ChatGPT. Now, one thing before I dive into that and we start talking about the ways to generate a certificate is I want to show you a functionality right inside of Storyline that you could take advantage of as well. So if you come in here and let's say you set up your own certificate. Now this one is very plain. I did not set it up to be a full certificate, but I could design the page how I want. And then after I design the page how I want, I can then come in and add a trigger called print slide. What that will do is it will print currently what's on the slide. Now, the trick for this is you have to, if whatever is going to trigger this print slide, you have to hide that button. You have to hide something so you don't have that button just kind of visible right here. So typically what I would do is add kind of a hide trigger button, and then I would trigger the certificate. Sometimes I run into trouble where I try to print the slide, but the button hasn't quite gone away yet. So in those cases, what I would do is actually put the print certificate on a layer that would start as soon as the layer starts as well. And so I would hide the button and then I would show the layer, and that adds a little bit of a delay, and usually I get better luck that way as well. But I want to talk to you about creating a JavaScript snippet so you can go customize the certificate and make it any way that you want it to be here. So let's talk about that option, but I at least wanted to point out what's available out of the box if you wanted to use that. So let's go ahead and download this project file. Now in that project file, you'll see this certificate right here, and this certificate already has that print slide. But let's go ahead and remove that. In order to do this though, what we need to do is generate a separate file. That file is going to pass over information, and it's going to have the learner's name, it's going to have the score, it might have things like completion date as well. So those are things that we need to figure out, first of all, in order to print this, in order to generate this certificate here. So let's go ahead and just add one more trigger here. I already have my name, I already have the score, but what I want to do, and I'm in the triggers, let me close that out. What I want to do is create one more variable, and we're going to call this completion date. So let's call this completion date, capital D, and there we go. So this is going to be a text variable because it's going to have numbers, but it's also going to have slashes. So I want to make sure that it's just a text variable here. I don't know what the date is to begin with, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and then I'm going to click OK here. Now, just for troubleshooting purposes, let's go ahead and add it to our slide just so we can see here, because the goal is not to take the print slide, whatever we have on the slide. The goal is to generate something completely new. So I'm going to go in and add a text box here, and we're going to insert. So going into the insert menu, I'm going to go ahead and insert that completion date. So it's up on top, completion date. There we go. That way I figured out what the completion date is, and we can do that just as soon as the timeline loads. So let's go ahead and execute some JavaScript here. And I'm going to come down to execute JavaScript trigger. And let's pull this up right here. Now what I need to do is figure out the date. Now there is a shortcut way of being able to figure out the date inside of your local area. I already have that code, but let's go ahead and jump into ChatGPT and let's just ask it, what is the code? So I am working, let's set the stage. It's usually good to set the stage with like, you're working inside of Articulate Storyline 360, you're creating some JavaScript code. That usually helps ChatGPT. I am working inside of Articulate Storyline 360, and I need to determine the current date, let's say current local date, just so it knows that we're focused on the local. And I need to push it back to a variable called completion date. give me the code for that. So we're asking it just for the local completion date, and we're going to take that. Now, what I found with ChatGPT is it's not always using the correct JavaScript API. If you really want to dive into this and you want to dive more into JavaScript API, check out my full course and videos on that. So you can check out preview videos, but I have a full course on my website that I'll show you in a little bit that dives deep into this and dives deep into working with ChatGPT and JavaScript as well, if you want to check that out. All right, so right now it's getting the date, and then it says getting options. It's doing month, dates, and so forth. So then it's formatting that date to local string. I think it's doing it a little bit differently than what I want it to do, but let's go ahead and just try that for now. And then it's going to push this back. Now, there are some things with the new JavaScript API that we don't need to have. We actually don't need to have the reference to the player. And the set var is actually a little bit more simplified as well. But let's go ahead and just copy that. And so let's paste it into Storyline here. Now, anything that you see with this // that is a comment. Those are specific instructions or just specific reminders of what happened. And in this case, ChatGPT uses it to explain what's happening in that code. You don't need to keep those, but if you want to use those as a reference back, so if you're going back to this code, you can go ahead and say, oh, that's what that was trying to do. So right here, get the current local date, and we can keep that. It is best practice. I don't know why ChatGPT doesn't follow this. It is best practice to call your variables by let if they change, or by const if they don't change. You don't have to do that. var still works, but just again, for best practices, you can change that. So let's change one more. And in fact, we don't even need the reference to this player right here. So I can simplify that. In this set var, all I need is a lowercase s. Again, I talk about the JavaScript API. I talk all about this in length if you want to check that out as well. So it is going to send this back to completion date, which is the name of our variable here. It's going to figure out the date. It's going to figure out the year. It's going to figure out the month. It's going to figure out the day. It's going to add that to the local string. And basically, this is the example of what we're going to get back. Great. So let's go ahead and just click OK here. Let's click OK here and just make sure our JavaScript saved. Yep, there we go. And we're going to do this actually not when the user clicks on any button, but we're going to do this as soon as the timeline starts. So as soon as the timeline starts, I want the date to already be figured out and pulled in here. Now we're going to then take all of these different variables. We're going to take the learner name. We're going to take the score. We're going to take the completion date, and we are going to push those back over to a certificate. But let's just double check that this date is working so far. So I'm going to go ahead and preview this. And there we go. We have June 14th, 2025. This is the date of the recording at the moment. So that allows me to go in and pull the date. That is step number one. I know that was a lot of work, but just going in and getting the date and then just adjusting a couple things about ChatGPT code and pasting it inside of Storyline there. Now let's focus on creating a print certificate. In order to do this, we need to be able to create a separate HTML file. We then need to have that HTML file in the same location. Wherever you publish your project, we need to have it in the same location. So what I need to do in Storyline is when you print the certificate or you click on the print certificate button, is I need to be able to pull open. So I have to give some instructions to ChatGPT. I want to pull open a certificate.html file, and I want to pass in this information that I've captured inside of Storyline. So that is passing in. You are prompting a certificate.html file first. You're then passing in the person's name, the score, and then you're also passing in the date. So let's go ahead and focus first of all on just creating the certificate that will display this. And then second, we will pass in that information. So let's go back into ChatGPT and let's say I need an HTML file called certificate, and it needs to read some information from a Storyline course that opens this file. It needs to have learner's name, score, and completion date. This will be a certificate page that shows completion of a course. And we could even pass in the name of the course if you wanted to store it inside of a variable. But this will show completion of a course and prompt the user to print the certificate. Let's start with that. Let's go ahead and just make sure that we have this HTML file. It's going to read in the learner's name, the score, and the completion date, but I want to make sure that completion date is set and written very similar to what it is inside of Storyline. So let's just see what happens so far. So it's going to add some style here. Now I could copy this code and I can open it up inside of like Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text or something like that, paste it in there. But I can also prompt ChatGPT to give me the download file. So after it's done generating, what I can do from here is I can go ahead and say, give me the download for certificate.html. Now I'm going to hide this real quick. Okay, so there is our download certificate.html. Let's go ahead and download that here. So there is our certificate HTML right there. I'm going to double click on that and you can see right here, unable to access course data. That is okay for now. Let's just go ahead and click close. And then this is going to show completion of certificate and it has the name, the score, and the date. And you could see that it prompted something at the very beginning because it's looking for some type of information. That's great. Now let's go back into ChatGPT. We are going to need to actually place the certificate.html file in our published files. But before, we need to be able to trigger and open up the certificate.html file from our Storyline course. We're going to do that as soon as they click on the print cert right there. So let's go ahead and come back into ChatGPT and let's now make that connection. Give me the Storyline JavaScript to open up certificate.html, and let's make sure certificate is spelled right here. There we go. Certificate.html, and pass over the articulate or the Storyline variables from for learner name, score, and completion date that are in the Storyline course. This should open a new window. So open up a new window means that it's going to not take over the course that it currently is in, and it's going to open a completely different window. Those kinds of prompts are what are called parameters. Parameters are things that you define, even though you're just prompting in human readable text, basically. You're defining these parameters by adding those descriptions inside of the prompts here. So you can see here the Storyline JavaScript trigger. It's going to get the name. It's also going to get some additional info, which I think is a little bit too much here. But let's just keep it at that for now. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to copy this. Now it is asking us to update the certificate.html to read the parameters. Can you give me the updated certificate.html with those parameters so I can download it? Okay, so it's going to give me that, but let's go ahead and copy this code right here. We're going to go in and execute this JavaScript as soon as that button is clicked. So as soon as the button is clicked, let's go ahead and just paste in that code. Now, like I mentioned before, we do not actually need to have a reference for the player. You can change these into let, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to keep them as var here. Now what I can do is I can also simplify. You don't have to do this. I am just simplifying the code. You can actually use the code as you've copied over from Storyline. I am just trying to keep it up to date with the latest JavaScript API and simplifying the code here. So we're going to say get var, not set var, because we want to get the information. We're going to get var here, and it is lowercase g. Let's go ahead and get var here. So it is getting all that information. It is then passing in that information to the certificate.html. It's passing in the name, it's passing in the score, and it is passing in the date. And then it is opening the window. That's exactly what we want to do is we want to grab the information from Storyline. We want to pass it into this HTML file. That HTML file needs to read it. Like I mentioned, you could just copy and paste this code from my JavaScript snippet site. I like to dive in so you at least understand what's going on, so you can customize it, so you can add more to it. That's why I like to dive into this. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and click OK here. I'm gonna click OK here too. Let's go ahead and download the latest certificate.html. Now, before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and delete the previous one, just so I don't have any duplication there. And then I'm going to preview this new one and just make sure that it's okay. Yeah, looks like this is now prompting for the HTML. So all we need to do is go ahead and publish this out and then drag and drop the certificate.html file in it. So I'm going to publish this just to web, and I'm going to go ahead and click on publish here. Let's go ahead and wait for this to publish, and then we're going to move the certificate.html file into our publish folder. You will unfortunately have to do this every single time you publish. So I wouldn't just drag the file in, I would copy the certificate.html file in so it doesn't delete every time you actually publish. So let's go ahead and open up the Storyline project, and all I have to do is copy the certificate.html, and let's go ahead and paste it inside of there. Now, if I double click on the story.html, let's jump to, which I believe, I don't know if it showed up in my menu, so let's go ahead and move on to the next page. Okay, there we go. So it is under certificate. If you ever see the pages out of whack, I want to show this because this pops up a lot. If you ever see the pages out of whack there, if you actually come in here and you go into player and then you go into menu here, all you have to do is just reset the story down at the bottom, and then everything will actually be fixed. And so now it's in the new order. Just wanted to point that out there since I was running into that. So now it's going to print our certificate. So I'm going to click on print certificate, and you can see that it is pulled in. It is pulled in the score, it's pulled in the date, but it has not pulled in the learner name. Why would that be? Well, that could be because the variable that I have named it inside of Storyline is actually not matching with the variable inside of the code. So I have it called learner name. And I think when I prompted inside of ChatGPT, I said learner's name. So it doesn't know where to actually go here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close out this window. I'm going to go into my JavaScript here, and I probably need to come in here, and instead of learner's name, I'll just say learner name there. Now, everywhere else that it's referencing, it's going to actually reference the name. So I think we're okay at this point. All I need to do is republish. So let's go ahead and click OK, and let's click republish here. So it's going to publish, and then it's going to, and this is a good thing why I just didn't move the certificate.html file in the folder, because you see it's now deleted the certificate, the old certificate.html file in there. Let's go ahead and make another copy, paste it into there. Let's try this one more time. Now it is good to close out the windows from previous projects. Sometimes it like caches things, and so that's important to do. Let's go ahead and try this one more time. And you can see there we go. It is prompting me to print, so I can just go ahead and click print. But you can see here, it's now pulling in my name. It's now pulling in the score and date as well. I could leave it as that. That is now a certificate that every single time I just need to know the variables. I need to add that little JavaScript snippet when I want to print the certificate and so forth. But the power of ChatGPT is now I can go in and customize this. So let's go back into ChatGPT and let's go ahead and say, I want the certificate.html file to look more professional and elaborate. I do not know how to spell today, so let's go ahead and change this. Like I've mentioned before, I am not the best speller. If you go through my courses, you're going to see some misspelling. I apologize. Especially when you're typing on the fly as well. That's even worse. All right, so let's make it more professional and elaborate, but keep all the CSS inside of the HTML file. CSS is what handles the style of your page. It's important to make sure, especially with this, if you just want one file to copy and paste over, normally I like to have my CSS separate, but if you just want one file to copy and paste over, it needs to be all inside of that HTML. So that's why I'm specifying that. Now, because I am getting a new one, I can go ahead and just delete the certificate.html. Okay, so there is our new certificate. It remembered that I wanted it downloaded, so there we go. Let's go ahead and download it. And I'm gonna copy this and paste this into here. We'll replace the old one, and let's try this one more time. So let's close out our previous projects, and then we can go ahead and double click on the story.html. We will restart it and then just jump down to certificate. Now I'm gonna click on print certificate, and boom, that looks really good. So we have some nice borders. We have presented by Learning Dojo. I didn't even say it to do Learning Dojo. It just basically it remembers my history of like what company it is and so forth. And so you can see right here, certificate of completion. This certifies that Jeff Batt, boom, and the date has completed the course requirements. I can change that in any way that I want. I can go back in and tell ChatGPT to change that and so forth. So I'm going to leave this HTML file for you to download on the snippets site. If you go back to the snippets site, let's go back here. I will have it in the download file, but I'll probably place it after the random text, and I will have it so you can download the certificate.html file, but you can also see the code snippets there. Hopefully that is helpful for you. If you want to dive more into JavaScript, you want to learn a little bit more about what it does so you can customize it, or even really the basics of it and how to use ChatGPT to get more custom learning interactions like this, head on over to my website at learningdojo.ninja. If you head over to courses, I do have a JavaScript for Storyline course. If you check that out here, I cover everything you need to know about JavaScript and how it applies inside of Storyline. Also, if you like this video, head on over to my YouTube channel, click that like button and subscribe to my channel, as well as hit the bell notification so you get notified of all future videos as they come out. That really helps my channel, allows this channel to continue to grow, to continue to reach out to more learning developers as well. Feel free to share the channel as well. Also, if you want to check out more courses, I do have everything covering from A to Z in Articulate Storyline 360. My new course that I'm currently working on, which is the AI Assistant in Articulate Storyline. I have Rise, I have Camtasia, I have XAPI, everything that you would need to know about learning development. But you don't have to actually purchase a course. You can also join the community and check out all previous blog posts. And I have a lot of blog posts there. So you can check out by the topic if you're interested in AI, if you're interested in JavaScript, all of those are for free. That's all I have for today. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time.